Welcome to Don't Mind Me, I Just Have ADHD, the podcast where fierce kindness meets the unfiltered truth. A one-stop shop about all things ADHD, where we smash the stigma and mystery around ADHD, depression, and the masks we wear at work and in life. I'm Ron, your ADHD guy, your guide, and your reminder that being different isn't a flaw. It's a biological advantage, a signal that you were never meant to blend in. You were built to make a difference. Here, we face the struggles that no one seems to get with heart. We unpack the chaos. We build strength through our sensitivity. We turn pain into power. Because kindness isn't weak. It's a revolution. And every time you show up for yourself, that's you taking your life back. So let's make it cool to be different. Let's make it brave. Let's make it yours.
If you want growth, specifically for marketing, is you want to try not to chase every trend. Maybe record your ideas, but not chase every one. And instead, kind of build a system where you're setting goals, you're testing what's working, and you're trying to improve over time. Because I think that's when marketing, when you control the outcome and the improvements, and it's not a business that controls you and how you focus your attention.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Don't Mind Me, I Just Have ADHD. I'm Ron, your ADHD guy, your host, and I'm here with Deborah Forrister, who has spent over 15 years helping entrepreneurs grow their business through smart, data-driven marketing. And today, she's here to show us how ADHD might just be your greatest asset for business. From setting measurable goals to avoiding the classic dartboard marketing trap, Deborah breaks down how to stop guessing and start building with strategy. You don't want to miss this one. If you've been white knuckling your way through adulting with ADHD, burnout, or just too many browser tabs open in your brain, I've got you. Let's hop on a free 30-minute discovery call where we'll talk ADHD, purpose, and how to stop feeling like a walking to-do list. No weird sales pitches, just real talk, fierce kindness, and maybe a dad joke or two. Book it now at youradhdguy.com. That's youradhdguy.com. Your future self will high five you for it. Yeah. Hi there, guys. We're here with Deborah Forrister, who's been a business educator for the last 15 years. So before we get into all that, have you worked with business entrepreneurs that have ADHD?
Yes, I think some of the best entrepreneurs or business owners that I've had have a degree of that, right? I think
Yeah.
there's always a degree, right? But I think that some of the characteristics, ADHD or not, of like that passion and really wanting to start something new and the creative and building something is something a lot of business owners share, right? A lot of those traits.
Yeah, definitely. You talked about how having ADHD can actually be something that works with you when you're trying to be an entrepreneur. Yeah, let's kind of unpack that. How is that a strength? It's interesting.
Yeah. So the one thing that they don't tell you when you're trying to start a business is that ADHD can be a strength, right? And marketing
Yeah.
specifically, and people don't look at it that way. And I think that's unfortunate. I think that people who have ADHD, they naturally are just very creative. They
Mm.
thrive in a fast pace and they have lots of ideas to put into practice. And that's something that most people who have a business they'll get focused on like running the business, but they don't have the creativity to think out of the box to do
Yeah.
different types of marketing. And so it's really gold if you can implement that, and sometimes you can hit on something that's different than what other people are doing. So I think it can be a huge strength for people who have a business.
Yeah, I definitely, in the beginning, when I was starting mine,
Hmm.
I'm still developing.
Yeah.
Um, I was like, it seemed daunting because it's like I'm having trouble, and I know I'm not the only one, like doing a normal job. Like, how can I even be successful at something that's like so uncharted and quite scary when you're like trying to create something that maybe hasn't been done before or you haven't done it, that can be huge. For me, it's like once I started, we have so much creativity that we kind of got an edge on other entrepreneurs because we're willing to try whatever. We're impulsive. We're like you were saying, like when we get focused on something, it's like we're there to the end. The only thing that I've seen, in myself and others is with ADHD is the follow through.
Right. So when you have a lot of ideas, that I think that's where having all of those ideas and interests, that's where it can collide with entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Because with entrepreneurship, you remember what I said, right? You have all of these ideas. In marketing, it can be, hey, I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to have a blog. I'm going to do ads. I'm going to create
Yeah.
all of these ideas. And sometimes I think ADHD and not all business owners, maybe they don't stick with it long
Hmm.
enough to know if that tactic is going to work, right?
Okay.
And that's ultimately the trap, is that if you rely on chasing everything and dabbling, then you don't know if it's going to work. And so you're not building anything because you're just reacting to or chasing things without a clear goal. Maybe there's no plan and there's no way to tell what's working. And so you're not going to get traction, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, I think is a little bit funny. It's kind of like playing pin the tail on the donkey, or like some kind of
Yeah.
dart game where you're blindfolded and you're just like throwing darts, hoping that they stick, right? Like no one would do that and expect that they're going to
Yeah.
actually do well,
That's
right?
crazy.
And that's what people kind of do a lot of times in marketing, is that there's no, like, I just want to do generally in this area, and they think it'll magically come together. But in a
Hmm.
dart game, the system that's better and what people would naturally do, you would remove the blindfold, aim at one section of the board, and adjust your throw. You would adjust your approach to try to get better, right? So, like, you create this system, you define what you're trying to do in a way that's measurable,
Yeah.
and then you have a plan, like, okay, well, this time I'm going to try to throw with my left hand. This time I'm going to try to step back. This time, like, you have a
Yeah.
plan, like what you're going to try, and you very quickly prioritize, what am I going to do that's going to make this better? And you're constantly like slightly tweaking, right?
Yeah.
And that's just a much better approach
Hmm.
to marketing, right? Pick a goal, focus on what you want to do, test, refine.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Marketing.
So like you talked about measurable. Um, how do you like how does that work? Like with measure, like how do you measure something? Like,
Right. So when you're picking a goal that you want to have, you want it to be something that you can measure to see if it's improving. And I think that's a mistake that people make when they're have an idea for what they want to do. Their
yeah.
goal is either way too maybe big, so it's not something that they can attain immediately, so they'll get burnt out. So you say, okay, well, before that goal, what's a goal that I can say will dictate
Yeah.
my actions today or next week to get to a 5-year goal?
Hmm.
So I think it's designing something measurable so you know you're making progress. Something, but and you want the goal to be meaningful so that it has impact on your marketing or your life. And then I think the third part of setting a goal is something that it's achievable. So what maybe are we talking about examples of something that's measurement? Well, I mean, maybe going back to your podcast, right?
Yeah.
If you're trying to say like, hey, I want more engagement, you know where
Mhm.
you can get those numbers. You can see how long someone listened to your podcast. You can see of the topics, which one got reshared in the community, right? Like you can kind of
Yeah.
look at the data and you could ask people who are in your network which one they would be involved in, right? So then you're saying like,
Mhm.
okay, well, did I get longer watch times? Did I get people sharing it? So you're looking at these proximate indicators, I think they're called, but just smaller goals to
Yeah.
see, am I moving in the direction that's getting me my ultimate goal?
Yeah, like there's like Apple Analytics that you get that I look at, and so
Yeah.
basically what you're saying is like, so I look at the episodes and I look at the ones that really got a lot of traction, and I kind of just like, okay, well that's the direction I want to head in. Um, so it's kind of like in the beginning you're throwing those darts, and you're like, okay, this one, got near the mark, this one's getting closer. um, and then just kind of repeating that process over and over again. How do you stay within those like bounds of like without all, like those shiny objects that are out there? They're like, well, because there's always like I know for me, when I'm trying to do something, there's like all these emails, or maybe I might see something like obviously Google's like understanding like what to market to me, and then I'm like, okay, well this guy's like can give me a TED talk over here, or whatever that may look like, and you're like, I want to go for that. How do you stay within like the bounds of like,
I think it has to do with prioritizing your goals, right? So if you know what you're trying to get out of a marketing or out of the podcast or out of something that you're doing, then when an opportunity comes in, you can identify, is this more or less likely to get me towards my goal? Or am I willing to abandon this goal in order to go after another goal and create a new loop, even if I'm kind of starting over, right? And so I guess my question would be, if your goal is increasing your audience and you're looking for ways actively to increase your audience, then going on a TED Talk could be a way to reach that
mm,
goal, right? But if you're trying to do engagement, I might argue that a TED Talk is a different direction completely, because it's really not about niching in on your audience and making something engaging for them and a product that's going to serve them,
yeah.
but it's more about your notoriety. And so my question would be, what goal does that action help you reach? And is that goal actually what you want to reach?
So how do you make a good goal? Like
Yeah,
what's the process of that?
I think a lot of people have, it's measurable, it's meaningful,
Hmm.
and it's achievable. And so I think the first piece is it's measurable. And I think for marketing, oftentimes that can be, how many phone calls did I get? What does my analytics look like? Are they staying on the page? How much is a cost per lead? Right. So you have all of these different indicators that you can look to measure to see which one you can move. A lot of times it comes down to how many new customers do I get, right?
Yeah.
And then meaningful, I think sometimes that's the what happens is that they'll do something, but the upside of what they're doing doesn't, you can't feel the impact of that,
Yeah.
right? And so I think that the analogy I heard was just kind of like a sports analogy. You got to make sure you're in the right league. Because if
Hmm.
you're spending a lot of action, like in a game that's just recreational, that's going to be like really different than if you're trying to compete in a larger league or even professionally, right?
Yeah.
And the actions that you might take are different kind of depending on if it's going to have a meaningful impact. And so choosing something that is important and that where you can be competitive and actually
Yeah.
make a difference, I think is part of the definition. Right. And then you want it to be achievable. So small enough so you're not saying, hey, I want to grow my business. It's great to have a 10-year goal to grow your business to 10 million or 100 million.
Yeah.
But backing that down to say, I'd like to make the next step up for my business. If I'm at 40, I want to make 100. If I'm at 100, I want to make 400. And what's the next problem I need to identify and fix? What's the next improvement I need to make with my marketing that's limiting my ability to move forward? And that is broken down on what I'm going to test to see if I can improve today. Can
Yeah.
I get more productivity out of my time? Can I update a message that's going to make people want to call me from my website? Like, what actions can I take to incrementally improve? And then you incorporate the ones that work and move forward with those, and then come up with a new idea of what you're going to improve. So it's
Yeah.
creating that feedback loop and letting go of items that, even if you're successful, aren't moving the needle.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Hopefully.
One of the biggest challenges that I have with
Mhm.
ADHD, if things aren't going the way that I've invested a certain amount of time and they're not going the way that I would like them to go. And um, I've kind of followed somebody else's blueprint and did my thing with it, but it's like I'm not getting the awareness for it. So I just want to give it up, because it's a lot of work and I don't see the return on investment. So, what do you suggest? Because with ADHD, I'm like, if it's not happening yesterday, it's a failure.
And I think that the first thing that you want to do is just appreciate that, what did I learn
Yeah.
from this system that
Hmm.
I'm building? Like, what about their blueprint doesn't work for me? And so you're identifying, I wish I knew what the kind of situation was so I could speak more specifically to your analogy, but I think it happens a lot where people will try a tactic. They're like, you know what, I'm going to post on social media. But then I
Yeah.
realize, like, you have to post several times a day for a long time if you're going to choose that method to get
Hmm.
results. And if that's not something that you want to commit to, that doesn't work for your style, there might be other approaches that can get you to where you want to be. But if something's not working, I think just appreciating, like, hey, what can I learn from this?
Yeah.
And what do I think would help me find this more rewarding or get the result I want? And then just kind of thinking through, okay, I feel like that the first thing I could do was adjust in marketing, oftentimes it's the offer,
Yeah.
right? You're offering the wrong thing. So people are coming and they want some kind of service, but they want something different than what you're. So testing, okay, well, what if I offer this? What if I offer a lower price point? What if I offer something
Hmm.
smaller, or like I'm packaging it differently? And so then it's an exercise not in I failed or this tactic doesn't work, but how do I use psychology, what I know about my audience, what I have to offer to test different offers
Yeah.
or test different follow up? I think sometimes, and then also challenge misconceptions. So you might think, oh, this isn't working. They're not buying in 24 hours the thing I'm trying to sell. So
Yeah.
then saying, okay, well, maybe I need more touch points and I need to make a longer sales cycle. So I think that those are kind of the two things that I see a lot,
Yeah.
is people that they don't appreciate that there is something to be learned about why it's not working.
Hmm.
And if they can sit back and say, why do I think this is not working? And how can I test if I can make that piece better? Maybe it's messaging. And think about, well, what assumptions do I have that might not be accurate for my audience? Sometimes that's why a professional can help, right?
Yeah.
Because you might not see You might not have your goals defined in a way that get you to where you want to go, or you may not know what to test to see if you can improve. And sometimes an outside consultant can come
Yeah.
in and see something that can have really great results just by changing and testing a couple of different options or variations.
Okay. So it's, you would say, like, if you get to that point of being stuck and you're kind of doing it on your own, like it would be more beneficial if you had like a consultant or a coach like helping you.
Not always, but I think that that can be helpful, right? I think if you're trying to, if you're just trying to define a goal, and maybe you ask yourself, I'm feeling scattered and I'm thinking, what were the last three marketing efforts I tried to do? And what was the goal of each?
Hmm.
And if you don't know what the goal of each was, that tells you need to define what metric you want to move. Is the metric nurturing an audience? Is it getting money? Is it building connections? Is it selling a digital product?
Hmm.
Like, what is the thing that you're trying to move? And what's the action that has to happen immediately before that to get that to happen, right? So, kind of just thinking about what your efforts are, making sure you're really clear on what the goal is, and then looking of all of the different marketing things I could do, which one do I think is going to be most likely to impact that item, and focus on that and make small tweaks and not say, okay, I'm going to change the messaging, I'm going to change everything all at once, because then you don't know
Yeah.
what is impacting the change in behavior. Because if you change the environment, you change the behavior, right? So
Yeah.
it's just more focused on incremental changes instead of changing everything, is would be the recommendation. And if you're really stuck, having a sounding board, another business owner can be a way to then have that, just a sounding board.
Yeah, especially if you're coming into this for the first time and you're kind of like maybe an extra set of eyes might work, but what you're trying to say is that if you just like kind of make little adjustments, that might be like somebody's not seeing your offer clear enough. Um, Say like I'm trying to sell like dog art, abstract dog art on Etsy
Right.
and no one's buying it. Um, what would you say like for that example of like how would that like how would you increase that? What would you look at first?
My experience is mostly with um look like service professionals,
Okay.
right? So businesses, doctors, lawyers, where you're solving a problem.
Hmm.
And so for when you're solving a problem for someone, it's a little bit different because there's already demand,
Yeah.
right? Like someone already knows that they have whatever, a legal problem, medical problem, a financial problem that's causing them stress, and there's some urgency related to it. I wonder if dog art's a little bit different because there's an element of like kind of like a demand generation, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's identifying the problem. Is the problem that not enough people are seeing your art?
Yeah.
Or is it that they're not selecting your art over all of the other people?
Hmm.
And so identifying for myself, oh, I'm getting a lot of people seeing my art, but how do I make it be the one they select? And then you're adjusting like an emotional appeal. Is your photography good enough? Are the colors standing out compared to other people? Right. So you're adjusting if the goal is to be chosen compared to your competitors,
Yeah.
you would test different actions. And
Okay.
those actions would be, how do I make it stand out? Maybe it's price point, maybe it's customizability, maybe it's like, hey, this is a picture and it's your dog breed. This is names of your, like, so you
Hmm.
test ways to make yourself stand out. And if your problem on the other end is just no one is looking at it. 4 people viewed my product last month. That's
Yeah.
it. Like you wouldn't necessarily focus on differentiators because you don't have any traffic, right?
Yeah.
So you're identifying what's going to make the most difference. And in that case, you're saying, okay, well, do I need ads? Do I need to improve my description? Do I have the right keywords? And so you're
Hmm.
focusing on, how do I get visibility? Do I need to be right? And so it's like it's a different problem.
Yeah. So it's just kind of like looking at like,
Identifying what's your problem, and if you change this goal, i.e., I'm chosen more compared to the other dog art, or I have exposure to my dog art, you're identifying like what ultimately is the problem holding you back. And
hmm
you're setting a goal for how you might improve that key thing holding you back. And then you're
yeah,
starting to test, and you do want to have some kind of analytics, right? Because you want to know, yes, more people saw my stuff, or yes, more people
yeah,
selected me. And if you are just kind of going off your gut, or you're constantly changing, like, oh, you know what I need to do? Instead of dog art, I need to do cat art and hamster art. Like, right, like if you're just like
yeah,
going, that it's not going to work better necessarily in a new format. It would be maybe better to identify what can be done to improve it, so you're learning from it and kind of continuing to optimize the what you have.
yeah. So it's just like identifying what's holding you back, instead of, hey, this isn't working. I need to just make like a totally different thing.
Right. I think my recommendation would be, if you want growth, specifically for marketing, is you want to try not to chase every trend. Maybe record your ideas, but not chase
Hmm.
every one. And instead, kind of build a system where you're setting goals, you're testing what's working, and you're trying to improve over time. Because I think that's like when marketing, when you control the outcome and the improvements, and it's not a business that controls you and how you focus your attention.
How would you suggest that somebody choose the idea to test first?
How do we choose? That's a good question, because I think it's going to be so different for so many different kinds of businesses, right? So,
Yeah,
I think you identify the main goal. So with my clients, a lot of times what they want more, um, they want more clients,
yeah.
right? And
That's
so,
the goal, right?
right, the goal is more clients. And so backing up from that, how can I get more leads, more calls?
Yeah.
And backing up from that, where are people being introduced to my business?
Hmm.
Is it on social media? Is it in my website blog content? Is it on Google, the big Google business profile? Is it in organic? And backing up, thinking to myself, okay, well, if I got more people to view my Google business profile, and I got more people to engage with my Google business profile, then I could move them into my funnel. I think typically when you're looking for improvements, you start at the end of the funnel.
Yeah.
So the first place you look in the example of trying to get more cases is you look to see, of the people who call me,
Yeah.
how many have a consultation? How many people come in? And is there any reason why they're not moving along my funnel? And
Hmm.
what can I test? Am I answering the phone quickly? Am I calling people back quickly? Does one person need to train? Right. So you're just like testing ideas. What could make that better? And then
Yeah.
stepping back, on the page that they schedule the consultation, of the people who view that page, how many are making a call? And what might be a reason that they're not making a call? And then you're testing that idea. Is it too busy? Is my offer good enough? Am I giving enough value? Is there any reason why that they might want to be leaving? And you just sit, you can sometimes look at the page and be like, oh, maybe if
Hmm.
I changed something on the page, I would get a better result, right? And so you're looking at all of the key points in your funnel and kind of thinking, how can I make an improvement so that my every step of that process is getting better?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you've been super helpful.
thank you. You know what? I enjoy talking with you, and I really hope that this was interesting for people who might be thinking about how they can move ahead in their business and with different ideas about how they can get their marketing to work better for them.
Oh yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, and I feel like what you're saying is like, well, in my belief, is that you're not selling really the product. You're selling yourself. You're selling the belief in yourself that you can help make that transformation in their life. You know, that if you invest in me or in who I am, uh, that this can happen for you too.
I think you've hit on an important point, right? And I think the one thing that business owners don't know is that sometimes small tweaks in what they're doing can have wildly positive impacts on what they're doing, right? And so you can use that for your own business. And then you can also use that for potential clients, right? And you can impact their decision-making process with small tweaks. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So it's all about like the little things, paying attention to those.
It's about being strategic and picking the little things that are going to make a high impact difference and allowing yourself to stay focused on looking at the reaction, right? So you have a little bit more planning about which ones you're going to do, a little
Hmm.
bit of observation to see if what you're actually spending time on and focusing is getting the things that you want, and then having that review to say like, hey, did this get me what I want? So that you're kind of thinking through that in your day to day when you're trying to reach marketing goals.
Yeah. So what are some like low hanging fruit that somebody can use when they can't like maybe afford a team to like make those adjustments,
What are some low hanging fruit that people can do?
like
I think that
solopreneurs to create a feedback loop to refine their strategy.
trying to think of like what's gonna like a common mistake. Like, I think that a common thing that people can do is think about the user experience. So, what I would expect if I was interacting with a business for the first time, what I would want to know, what I would want to see, and having that critical eye of what you would do differently. I think oftentimes the opportunity that people overlook is that they haven't inventoried their assets. And so if
Hmm.
you have an idea of like, hey, I have this asset, I have this podcast I create, I have this networking group, I have these pure referrals, I have really happy clients, I have whatever my asset is, and then using that asset
Yeah.
to get more out of your marketing. And I think sometimes people they'll create something or they'll take a photo and they won't really think through, are there more ways I can use this to get my goal? And so a creative use of assets, I think, is another thing that a business owner can do right
Hmm.
now is to improve where their marketing is and improve the performance of their marketing.
Okay. So yeah, that's interesting. Um, so in a time frame like mindset, like
Mhm.
so somebody's starting out, what when can some like a typical average time for somebody that could see success? Like what would that look like so somebody can actually make a measurable goal and not get frustrated because things aren't happening right away?
Yeah. I'm trying to think about what the numbers are. So sometimes depends on the test that you have and how many people are looking at your offer.
Yeah.
I've seen situations where you might have an offer and suddenly it was like people are I need in my business more people to call. So
Yeah.
now I'm going to try something radical. I'm going to do a free consultation. I'm going to offer a sale. I'm going to offer a discount. And you might know very quickly that more
Yeah.
people are reacting to a change. And if your idea is high impact and it's very different from what you're testing it against, you may see a difference very quickly.
Hmm.
And when you get into the process, if this tweak is smaller, it might take longer to see the difference between the two different ideas. So I like to have tests where you can see the results in like 30 to 90 days. So
Hmm.
I can see I've identified the issue I want to test, and I can get enough data to know if that plan of action that I'm trying is better than what I was doing before. It's better for the people involved who are actually implementing. It's getting a better response from the people I'm presenting it to, because that allows me to then test another idea in 90 days and be feeling like I'm having an achievable result. I think that's the problem, is if your goals are way too big to
Yeah.
not see results, and then you don't have the same kind of motivation. But if you can have smaller defined goals that you can get, you can be pretty sure which one's working better in 60 to 90 days. I think a lot of times that's where you have that
Mhm.
spot where you can stay motivated to try new ideas.
So yeah, just giving yourself that grace period of between 30 and 90 days. Sounds good.
Yeah, I mean that's what has worked for me. It's actually really hard to be patient though, because you're like, hey, let's not introduce anything else for 30 or 90 days, and let's just see how people interact between these two options, right?
Yeah.
And then you'll know
Yeah.
different. You know what I saw in the news yesterday? I saw a test that a business owner had done, and I think he was selling shower heads. And he put a test, and he's like, okay, well, people, this is how much it costs if it's made in China. This is how much it costs if it's made in the US. And I want to test, is there a market to buy this item that's double the cost made? Do people care about that? Right. And I think that the results were 0 people bought it compared to, I believe the numbers were like 3,000 people bought the other
Hmm.
one. Right. So you can really test an idea very quickly to say, is do people's actions show you what they
Hmm.
want? Right. And
Yeah.
so if you can have an idea and you think to yourself, oh, I think I'm going to change my whole system, then creating a test to say, okay, well, do people want this new product? Are they intrigued by? And instead of committing to making a big change in your system and implementing that, we're
Yeah.
just testing to see, is this going to improve the engagement or get us our goal, right? Testing that first.
Yeah, like testing like two different things and seeing which one instead of making like and that sounds safer and a lot more manageable, especially if somebody who's like, like me, who would be like, well, none of this is working, so I need to go in a totally different direction. And then that doesn't work.
Right.
Creates all this frustration. So it's just like, okay, well, maybe I just need to try adjusting this price point or, maybe marketing it over here to these people. So that makes a lot of sense. So what would be the biggest or the most impactful success story for a client of yours?
I think the biggest, I've had some great success.
Hmm.
And thinking back to your podcast, a lot of times the successes are when something worked and it was surprising. Like we kind of thought, oh, we're going to run that test.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes we'll have meetings and we'll be thinking, okay, we have this landing page. We would like to get more involvement.
Hmm.
And we'll have different people with different experience levels suggest changes. Like, why don't we say this? Why don't we try a photo like that? And when you believe that history tells you one thing will be better, and then you do a test and you're completely surprised by what your audience tells you, I think those are some of the only times when we've tried something new, tried something we didn't, not all of us even convinced we're going to help. And you get like double digit improvements over what you're doing. And we would have never known
Hmm.
had we not said, okay, well, we're going to test this and that. I think that's the fun thing about marketing. And if you
Yeah.
have that creativity and you can tap into that on a regular basis, I think that's really exciting. That
Yeah.
there's so much potential there to possibly have a really great idea. And if you just don't implement all of them, if you just test to see which ones am I seeing signs will improve my marketing, then
Hmm.
you can really spend time focusing on optimizing and improving the ones that are like the big hitters, right? That really make a huge impact.
So how do you generate those type of ideas?
Um, So when we work, I think I told you that we mostly work with service professionals. And so for service professionals, there are certain types of strategies that work really well. And the strategies that work kind of depend on the phase of your business. So if you are a kind of new business,
Yeah.
then you're figuring out what's your product. You need to keep your customer experience high, and you need good reviews, and you need good reputation. And your reputation becomes something that will help you get new business, right? So you're building, oftentimes that's the struggle, is defining your product, building your business,
Yeah.
and trying to sell more to your existing customers to kind of find how you can help them the most, right?
Yeah.
Oftentimes that's the first way that you get business, right? It's like I'll work with like eyelashes, and like their first customers are always like their family, right? And then it's their friends, and then it's their
Yeah.
friends' friends. And when they get a good reputation, then they can use that reputation to have a wider reach, because now I can take that reputation, translate it online to something like a Google business profile. And now people know, oh, you've done good work in the past. You have photos of your good work. You've created these assets. And
Hmm.
now I can diversify the channels where I get new business. And once you have a channel that works, you have a referral channel, and now you tried Google Business, and now you think, okay, well, I'm going to boost that with ads. I'm going to try this over thing here on Facebook. And you
Hmm.
can compare it against your original channel, right? Because you
Yeah.
can say, hey, this is how much it costs to acquire through my Google business profile, right? This is how much it costs to acquire through Facebook or through Google. And then you can compare and you can see, well, which one should I continue to, and how can I make that better? Right. So I
Yeah.
hope that answered your question. It was a lot of words to hopefully answer the question of how businesses can identify their product, their market, their reputation, and then expand into different marketing channels.
Yeah. So it's just testing the waters, and then this works over here, and then I can maybe test other things that might boost that, like amplify what I already have,
Right.
basically.
Right. Create the foundation. Make sure that your customers are happy so you can get a good reputation. Leverage the reputation and the body of work to go after bigger projects and bigger goals and bigger clients and bigger results.
Yeah.
And then divert, once you have those assets and maybe messages that work, then you can diversify and see, okay, well, I have this message. How does this message work on
Hmm.
other ways that I'm touching my audience? And then that kind of diversification is a model that we see for like kind of early growth businesses a lot of times.
Okay. Well, it's unfortunately the top of the hour, and
Yes.
it's been very informative. Hopefully some of the viewers have gotten a lot more confidence, those ones that are entrepreneurs and have ADHD, to be able to implement some of these strategies. So if somebody wanted to connect with you, how would they go about doing that?
So I'm in my bio. I'm sure that you'll link up to the website or on LinkedIn. If someone has a specific question and want to message me there, I would
Yeah.
love to reach out and share any information or insights that I have about their situation, or might be able to direct you to someone who I found interesting who has more knowledge than me.
Okay, that's awesome that you can like have referrals, and that you're looking out for the best interest of your client, potential client.
there is a specific segment of people who I know how to help.
Yeah.
And if I can help, I'm happy to. Otherwise, it's interesting to have conversations with people and hear about, kind of what they're working through and how they, and the ideas that they have to improve. So yeah, happy to connect, answer questions, reach me through my website, connect on LinkedIn. Those work really well.
Yeah, and thank you again for coming on the show. I'm flattered and honored, and as always, enjoy the rest of your week.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Really fun talking with you and meeting you.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in, and I'm so happy that you stuck with us this long. If you are a budding entrepreneur and something Deborah shared helped you reframe your ADHD or get unstuck in your business, reach out and let us know. We'd love to hear from you. You can connect with Deborah through the links in the show notes. Yeah, also she left a little freebie for you guys that she put together, and that'll also be in the show notes. And as always, if you need to reach out, I always have that 30-minute guilt-free one-on-one session. Just book now at youradhdguy.com. It's right at the top. I'd love to hear from you. And as always, stay kind, stay curious, and remember, your brain isn't broken. It's just built different. And that's a gift. Subscribe, and may the source be with you.